Live and direct, back with another episode of Monday Night Live with Dr. Natalie Forrest and, of course, myself, Mo Rock. Always a pleasure and privilege to be able to do this leadership show with you each and every week, Natalie, as we do deep dives into different leadership principles. And this week, I'm really excited. I'm pumped up because we happen to have a group of folks that are uniquely qualified to talk about the subject matter we're talking about this week, and that is underdog leadership. Now, when you think about underdog leadership, what does this mean? You know, my favorite film of all time is Rocky, Natalie. And if you see the film Rocky, that's a perfect example of an underdog leader. And we have some incredible folks that are truly the people's champions. You know, as we bring the guests in, you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. But before we do that, Natalie, how excited are you to delve into this week's subject matter?
I can't wait. And the simple reason for why I can't wait is because too many people out there believe that it's from rags to riches in one day or overnight success. But really, we have so many amazing stories and experiences of the unexpected and becoming a leader often against the odds. So I think this will be very, very exciting.
I appreciate you, Dr. Natalie Forrest. And with that, let's go ahead and roll in this powerful, unique group of folks that we have. Of course, we have the legendary Sammy Mashney, who, in my opinion, is the greatest lawyer in Southern California, in my opinion. In fact, I think in the entire state of California. That's just my opinion. We have some real powerful folks that we're about to do a nitty-gritty with. And I'm going to start off this week's program by giving the floor to Surin. And many of you remember Surin. He's spoken at some of our big events before alongside people like Lisa Nichols and Joe Vitale. And so Surin, you know, you have a real powerful story, and many people know you as a successful business owner. You're very well versed, and you've done a lot of things in the world of business, and you have a multi-million-dollar operation in the real estate, world. What I'd like to hear from you, though, is let's rewind a little bit. There's a point in time where you were amazed, shocked, and touched, moved, and inspired because a 12-year-old Surin, for the first time in his life, saw electricity. And so I want you to begin at the beginning. Tell us the story of you at the age of 11, at the age of 12, how you grew up, and let's start there. I'm going to give you the floor. Surin, please.
Thank you, Mo and Natalie. Thank you so much for Los Angeles team for opportunity to be in this panel. I was a little bit about my story. I was born in country called Nepal. I was born about 100 miles away from the Mount Everest, probably, the Mount Everest, highest mountain in the world. And the place I was born is one of the remote part of Nepal is a less developed country, one of the poorest country on the earth. So I was born 100 miles away from Mount Everest. Even today, we just got electricity 2 years ago. When I was growing up, there was no electricity, there was no road, there was no car, there was no movie theater. I used to walk about an hour to go to school. I was 5 years, 6 years old. I used to walk out. No running water, no, not even toilet, nothing. Even we just got the electricity 2 years ago. We just connected with the road, even close by, not even the place I was born. So you can say it was kind of a remote part of the world. So when I was 12 years old, I noticed my dad is going to the capital city, Kathmandu. So it took me about 2 months to lobby him to take me there. So then I was 12 years old. So it took us 3 days to walk into the major city. 36 hours walking. I was 12 years old. And then after 3 days in the evening, first time I saw the electricity. I saw the running water. I saw the movie theater. I saw the car. I saw the buses. I saw the everything. And I was dreaming one day I would live in the electricity. So I was dreaming about the city. So even America was, I heard United States, but I did not know America was exist in the planet, on the earth or moon or Mars. I had no idea. It was so far. My dream was to live in the electricity. So then moving forward, after maybe 5 years, I moved to the capital city, and I heard about United States, we used to go to the American Embassy Information Center and watch about ABC, NBC, and then it was, I believe it's a power of dream. It's as long as you have a power, your faith is bigger than fear, your dream is bigger than fear, you can overcome anything. And coming to America also had a lot of struggle. I had only few $100 lending Alex, not knowing anybody, not even knowing the language, nothing. So it was another struggle. But you know what? That my dream was bigger than fear. My faith was bigger than fear. And then I did not care about the unknown. I did not care about the rejection. I did not care about sleeping on the street. At one point, I was almost homeless, couple of days. Did not have nothing. My faith and dream was bigger than my fear. So that I believe American dream. I believe power of faith. I believe facing unknown. I believe that so once you have that one, I think nothing can stop whatever dreams you have. That's what I believe.
Wow. Oh, and we can't hear you, sir.
Incredible. Well, thank you for sharing that, Surin. And I'd love to give the floor now to Tom. And Tom, you are such an inspiration, and you are really proof that no matter how, chronologically where we are in life, we always have something to contribute to society. We always have dreams. We always have passions. We're always growing. One of the universal principles of the universe, Tom, is that the universe is always in a state of expansion. And so we as human beings, the moment that we stop expanding is the moment that we check out. Socrates said, if you're not growing, you're dying. And Tom, you're an inspiration. So please share a little bit about what you're doing in the world and introduce yourself a little bit and share, what you are doing at your chronological place in life as well, because I think that's an important part of your story. Tom, please. Okay, looks like we have some technical things going on with Tom. So before we bring him back in, I'm going to go actually to Shmiko now to take the floor and kick it off. Shmiko, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Wow. I'd have to say my biggest strive is, being born to a immigrant. My mother was born in Japan. And as a young child, I realized right away how important it was to be mindful of my surroundings. The first being, we were always taught to be seen and not heard. And so finding my voice in this world, moving into management, corporate management, working for some, large companies across the US, I started to realize that it was very important for me to not only learn my craft, but to find my voice. And so that was very intriguing to me. My mother was born in Japan, brought to the United States as a child, and same, she didn't speak any English. As she learned her way through, we were from Illinois, and it just started to become right away important for us to get an education, but not just an education, but to also understand that when we are presenting ourselves in business and any type of thing, to be the best that you could possibly be in those. And so when I moved into management and in corporate management and retail management, I learned right away the importance of people. I love helping people, not just in life, encouraging young adults, young women, and especially young women that, maybe just didn't have a voice at the time. And so that's brought me to current. During those times, my mother was very intriguing. She went all the way in school, spoke 5 languages. And as a child, we were taught right away to move with integrity and loyalty and genuineness. And so I took that into my career, and I did very well in the respect of understanding the people that worked around me, whether it be for me or peers, but also too, when I moved into entrepreneurship, how important it was to build people up. And that right there was really my drive in business. I'm in the financial industry. I did profit and loss for many years. And then I moved into helping people in the community, understanding just the basics of things, and that allowed me to not only thrive in these last few years in entrepreneurship, but also too, to find my voice. And so I'm definitely appreciative of how we brought that forth. I would have to say, wow, as a young child, I definitely experienced quite a few obstacles. Many of them were home obstacles and then moving into marriage, the same thing. But it did make me understand that we could grow. We could grow not just together, but we can grow in encouraging people. And that's what I choose to do nowadays. I choose to encourage women and men. I also work with a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs, professionals. But my biggest thing that I do the most is I teach people how to actually do business at a larger scale. I also teach people how to understand the basics of finance. And then I also go into the community with nonprofits and small businesses, and I teach them the same thing. And as we're learning ourselves how to become more, more encased in that, my childhood really brought that home. Again, going back to the loyalty, the integrity, as well as the genuineness. So thank you, Mo, for allowing me to share that.
I appreciate you so much. And next, we're going to go to a gentleman who recently took an IQ test. And after he took the IQ test, the machine that reads the score actually broke. The machine broke. His score was so high that the computer machine, it ceased to exist. And that's Sammy Mashney. So, Sammy, would you please take the floor and give a little bit about your background and your thoughts on the subject matter of Underdog Leadership, please?
By the way, they replaced the machine, just to let you know. Just kidding. Okay, well, my name is Sami Mashni. I was born in Ramallah, which is in Palestine, the West Bank. And I immigrated to the United States at age 23. Before that, I became a pharmacist by attending pharmacy school in Egypt. So when I came to the United States, I was a pharmacist. And then I went to Florida. I worked as a pharmacist there, and I didn't like Florida. 4 years later, I was in California, and Northern California till 94, and then in Southern California from 94 and on. While there, before moving to Southern California, I was bored with pharmacy. So I decided, and I was single and bored, basically. So I said, you know what, I'll go to law school. I was not intending on becoming an attorney. I just wanted to do something because I'm like a hyperactive kid adult, Really, I'm always have to do something. I cannot just sit idle or nothing or... Hi, honey. My wife just arrived. Then I became an attorney, and I started my own law firm in 1994 till now. And I also became a real estate broker. I do real estate and a notary. And one time I wanted to be like an official interpreter, like the people who go to court, etc. Although I speak both languages, without any problem, very fluent in both. And then just, forget it. So that's just to tell you, I'm always like, want to be doing stuff. I published a newspaper for 5 years, and I started a nonprofit organization. And then in the last few years, I decided to focus on my law firm, and now I'm a very active and eager attorney. But most important than that is that I am very kind of fanatic about independent thinking.
Wow.
Nothing stops independent thinking, because I consider your mind, my mind, I'm speaking for myself, it's like a piece of real estate. You have to own it yourself. You cannot mortgage it to others by adopting their philosophies, religion, political. You can agree with them, but you cannot follow them, because once you follow them, you have to emanate these positions from within you, rather than hearing somebody said that, or I read it in a book. You have to think it out, give it birth in your mind after analysis and thinking and, pros and cons. Mm-hmm. And then, and because if you adopt any thought outside you, you're like giving somebody a mortgage, and then you're not really 100% yourself. So I insist on being 100% myself, just like a sovereign country. Nobody can encroach on it.
Sammy, what is the name of because I know there's a couple different ways people can find your official website for your law firm. What's the best one?
Well, it's mashnilaw.com.
Mashnilaw.com.
My last name, law.com.
Awesome. And if there's anyone watching that knows somebody that is looking to get in touch with a team for a personal injury or for various different legal reasons, I highly recommend you guys check out that website. And with that, we're going to give Tom one more shot here. I know that there were some technical things going on with the broadband connection there. But Tom, are you with us now, or should we come back to you in a few minutes? Tom? Well, Tom, sometimes they say that the wisest thing is pure silence. So we appreciate the wisdom. We'll try to come back to you soon.
I think he's doing that on purpose.
Absolutely. And,
Sammy brought up the mystery.
Exactly. And Sammy brought up real estate and how the mind is like real estate. So there's a perfect segue now to go back to Suren to talk a little bit about this. And when it comes to underdog leadership, there's a quality and attribute called perseverance. And how important, Suren, is perseverance for the people watching this at home to be successful both in life and in business? And then I'm going to step back and let Natalie follow up with that same question with both Shmiko and Sammy. Suren, please get the ball rolling on perseverance.
Yeah, thank you for question, Mo. It's so important to have become persistent. They say it takes 15, 20 years to become overnight success. This world love overnight success. This world love success story. But behind every success, there is a lot of sacrifice. And people, they didn't see that. Maybe that entrepreneur is working 15, 20 hours a day. And he may be maybe a couple of times bankrupt. Maybe he has a family challenges. Maybe have a health challenges. People, they didn't see part. I believe that I believe it's so important to become, it's more than talent. It's so important to become very consistent, persistence, because, after some time you get bored doing same thing. But in order to become successful, you have a dream, you have a vision, you have to do every day. It doesn't matter you like it or you don't like it, because you have a dream, you have a vision. It's bigger than yourself. So it's so important. I think it's more than talent. Sometimes talent is overrated. It's so important to have a persistence. I think it's persistence enough and consistent enough and willing to change, willing to learn, willing to adapt, will become more successful than guys. Just talent is not persistent. That's what I believe.
Wow. So talent, persistence, sometimes doing the things that you don't like, and let's not forget about having the dream, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Sammy, Shmiko, who wants to take this one on?
Ladies first.
Thank you. I definitely agree. I believe, I started off working 14, 16-hour days when I was in retail management, sometimes 6 days a week. You always have to go, as hard as you possibly can. And that's just in the retail world. We understand how that works. I believe when I moved into entrepreneurship, I really extended that out, honestly, the 16-hour days, but it went to 7 days a week, making sure that not only was I learning my craft better and able to help the community in a better position, but also, too, I wanted to make sure that the knowledge that I was bringing was actually valuable to the people that I was bringing it to. So that took a lot of not just learning, but it took a lot of self-development in there. And although I feel as though I understood the financial arena that I'm in now, at a higher capacity. I've been doing it for 26 years, helping in the community. I also realized that it was very important that the information that I was bringing, again, in the financial industry, that it was current. And so that took a lot of reading and watching and training. So I definitely agree that being consistent with the knowledge that I was bringing, but also persistent with my own knowledge in bringing the correct information forth. So yes, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
Wow. Okay. All right. Sammy, you're up.
And if I may add, consistent, persistent, and insistent. You like that?
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I always think of Thomas Edison when he invented the light bulb. He kept trying different whatever wires, I forgot the exact term, film. And then it didn't work. His assistant told him, "You're wasting your time." He said, "No, I learned this particular material is not suitable for this. Keep trying. So you have to be methodical. And, I kind of like have a way of handling things. When I'm looking for something, I put my mind and my eyes like a scanner. I don't just look in different directions. No, I scan right, left, everything, in a methodical way, not leaving any area that will escape my, inspection, my scrutiny, And by the way, I'm a very conscious and aware person. Everywhere I go, walk to Walmart parking lot inside and everything. I don't just kind of walk looking straight. No, I'm looking around everything parking lot. I see a penny, a nickel. It's not the monetary value. It's how your mind is thinking consistently, so that nothing escapes you. So, and I think that's good enough. I'll let Mo take the floor.
Well, thank you for that, Sammy. And I hope the folks watching this are listening, because there's a powerful distinction here that you can apply for your life. When Sammy walks in a Walmart and when he's aware of his surroundings, this is self-awareness. This is being aware of your surroundings. This is being aware of yourself. The other day I met a friend of a friend, very lovely individual, very kind individual, but I could tell that this person was not very self-aware. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but what is it costing that person? Not being socially aware, not understanding social cues. There's moments in our lives where, it's appropriate to talk. There's moments in our lives where it's appropriate to listen. And these are very powerful tools of leadership. And so Sammy is talking about self-awareness. One of the most...
More, sorry to interrupt you, but if
no, please.
May add on this particular point, which is you kind of have to be just for yourself, not like to others, your own FBI and CIA rolled into one, always, noticing everything, memorizing things, and just constantly in a affirmative and active state of thinking, rather than just walking around blissless.
And by the way, that takes courage. And the reason it takes courage is because it's much easier to analyze another human being than it is to analyze yourself. I've met a lot of folks that, are therapists and psychologists or whatever the case may be, and they can talk for hours and hours and hours about other people. But when you want to talk about, hey, well, how about you tell me about yourself? They'll change the subject. It's easier to look in another human being than it is to do the hard, difficult inner work. That takes courage, because you might find something inside of yourself that you're not very fond of. But, that's why I say it takes courage to be a self-aware individual. And when you're self-aware, you have personal power, right? Courage leads to self-awareness, leads to personal power. And I think that's what Sammy is alluding to. But I'd love to hear Sammy's thoughts on this, because like I mentioned earlier, he's the only person that's ever been on the show that has broken the IQ testing measurement device machine. So for us not to utilize him would be foolish on our part. So Sammy, please take the floor and elaborate on tools and methodologies that people can, begin applying to be more self-aware. The floor is yours.
Okay, I had a very important point on this, which was the reason you have to be like this. It's kind of like it's part of your survival instinct. And survival is not selfish. You have to be strong and surviving so that you are able to affect fair and just treatment for others, or in your life to be principled, to make the correct decision. And Mo, what was that point that you were talking about? Because to be honest with you, I forgot.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Sammy did not forget. Just so you guys know, he's doing it because he wants to try to, he wants to act like he's not a robotic man with a photographic memory. But I know better. But I appreciate you, Sammy. So, the point that we were making was that courage leads to self-awareness, which leads to personal power. And what we want to know from you, Sammy, as a person that talks about being self-aware, right? You talk about how you're aware when you walk in a room, you pay attention to everything.
I got it. Okay, sorry. Well, basically, although you are one person, but you are actually three different things. Like a car, for example, that has a body and an engine and a driver. The car cannot drive by itself. The car itself cannot run. You have to be inside it. So the engine of the car is like your brain, your automatic subconscious brain. Now, the car itself is your body, but then you have to have inside you like a reptile, and this ever self-aware entity that I talked about earlier. Everywhere it goes, it notices everything, it registers everything, and it just stays dormant until something happens that will, threaten or seem to threaten your survival. Then that entity comes in and takes over and steers you in whatever direction that you need to. So nothing you do is just automatic. For example, if you want to not hate someone, your subconscious brain tells you, oh, this person is from a different religion, different culture, did this and that, so you would automatically hate that person. I don't hate anyone, but an average person, like, for example, in the Middle East, the Israelis, Palestinians, India, Pakistan, things like this. So, but then you will let, you will kind of not allow your subconscious brain to go in that direction. Say, no, I am in control. I drive the car. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're constantly the driver of the car of your brain, because if you let loose of the steering or go too fast or anything, mm-hmm. you're gonna wreck everything. So right. Have to be constantly aware, vigilant. You don't miss anything. I like when I'm driving all the cars, I look at their license plate, I memorize them, just to, not for any security reason, but just to keep my brain constantly functioning at a higher level than just driving. So incredible. I try not to do just one thing in whatever I do. If there's another way to do something, I do it at the same time. I'll give you another example. I have what's called frozen shoulder, and doctor said you have to do, exercises like rub your back or whatever it is. So I do it in the bathroom in the morning, before I go to work. Then I did it a little bit. Then I said, you know what? I'm going to do it 60 times in this direction and 60 times in that direction. Then I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to count to 10 in this language then to 20 in that language, and switch languages, Arabic and English, and then not count like just from 1 to 60, 60 to 1, reverse, constantly changing the way I do it in a way that my brain, I'm not just taking a shower, I'm doing a brain exercise at the same time.
Incredible. Incredible.
And I have other similar things I do, and I'm growing a library of things like this that I do, and I feel good about it.
Well, we appreciate you, and we feel good whenever we are graced with your presence and your wisdom and your unique outlook in life. Look, here at the Los Angeles Tribune, we bring folks that you are not going to hear anywhere else. This is a very unique perspective towards life and towards business. And I know in my heart that Shmiko has a lot that she can add to this, because I can just tell by her body language that her mind is going at 100 miles per hour. So I would love to give the floor to Shmiko so we can hear on her thoughts as we enter the last 15 minutes of this week's program. And we're slowly going to wrap up. But Shmiko, please take the floor. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. I say that, when you have humble beginnings, such as myself and our family, and we're able to actually come into a community of not just such powerful people as yourselves, but we get a chance to learn how can we really affect the people that are coming behind us, entrepreneurs, business people. And I'm honored to be here, because when you have a chance to learn from, such as the gentlemen that are speaking today, including yourself, Mo, and Natalie, it just reminds me that our beginnings really don't dictate our future, that we get an opportunity to not just learn our craft, learn the things that we want to bring into the community, into the knowledge that we have forthright, but also to learn from other people and how to do it better. Again, having humble beginnings makes it that much sweeter, because you know where you've come from and you know where you're going, but it also reminds you, how can you get there in the exponential way, not just learning, but teaching and sharing the knowledge. And so I just get an opportunity right now to say, it's so amazing that when you have an immigrant parent, when you come from a very humble beginning, that you get a chance to move into not just a corporate position. And, it was a little hard. It was hard being the underdog, as mentioned earlier, but the leadership always kicked in every single time. It always kicked in. It kicked into the ability of how we can present it to the people that are coming behind us and learning. And then we get to elevate, we get to learn more, and we get to grow from there. So, being an underdog leadership, I have to say I've spent many years in that arena, almost 30 years in that arena. And here in my 50s, I get a chance to kind of change that up a little bit. And so thank you for allowing me to share that, Mo.
Well, thank you so much, Shmiko. It's a pleasure and privilege to have you here with us. I want to give the floor now to Surin. You've been patiently waiting the last few minutes, listening to all this dialogue. Would love to give you the floor and hear your thoughts on where you're at here with this conversation. Surin, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mo. I'm totally agree with Sami and Simiko. It's so important to be aware of it. And the other thing is so important to knowing who you are. It's always, I started very humble beginning. It's so important to also remember from where you are coming from, and that humbleness, that gratitude. When you carry that attitude and work hard and serve other people, and you get blessed. Because one thing I realized, that in order to become successful, or the dreams and goals we have to touch many people life, and always putting other people first is so important. It doesn't matter what we do, it doesn't matter what kind of profession we are in. It's so important to uh, put other people first, and it's so important to knowing their uh, their point of view. And it's so important to have a empathy for other people. But in the meantime, as a leader, as an underdog leader, you have to inspire people. The best inspiration you can be from the action, not even talking. So many people, they talk, I'm gonna do this thing, that thing, but I think world care about the result. People care about the result. People care about the performance, not just talking. So it's so important to have a courage, but in the meantime, it's so important to be very humble and be kind, be generous, and just become just a good human being. I think that is most important.
Absolutely. And when we talk about underdog leadership, I mean, what are we talking about? We're really talking about that spirit that overcomes, right? That spirit that we all have that embraces the challenges and overcomes them, regardless of whether or not the odds are stacked against us or not. Because whether the odds are stacked against us or not is totally irrelevant, because we are ultimately in control. Going back to what Sammy said about being in control of our mind. Well, if you're in control of your mind, you're in control of your destiny. And that's a key point to really take home. And we're going to wrap up this program very soon. I'm going to just ask everyone to give their final words before we end this week's program, starting with Sammy, then we'll go to Shmiko, and we'll close out with Surah. Sammy, what are your final thoughts? We're going to give you the solo floor to give your final message to our audience this week. Please, the floor is yours. And Sammy, you are actually on mute, so let's go ahead and unmute you.
Yes.
And go ahead, the floor. Hopefully you didn't give away like the secret to life in those 5 seconds. Floor is yours.
I have to repeat myself, No, but, the most important thing is that everything we do, whether it's a physical thing or mental position, it has to be studied and basically analyzed, position, because you're dealing with others. When you interact with others or things that affect you in a serious way, it has to be something that's based on the analysis and, your brain rather than your emotions, because emotions and logic are like contradictory to each other. So whenever there's a serious issue, you have to, shut your emotions completely 100% if you can. A lot of people don't even think this way or know about this. But if you know about it, you have to, the more serious the decision or the issue that's kind of, bewildering you, then the more you have to shut down your emotions, because emotions are in good times, in loving situations, okay, they can play around, have their day. But whenever there's serious threat, danger, you have to completely compress your emotions to nothing and let your brain and your logic handle the situation. That's how every decision you make should be.
Well, I want to, before we move on, I want to push on this point, and maybe Dr. Natalie can also chime in, because she's been so graciously quiet, as you know, I've been a little overpowering this week, more so than usual, Dr. Forrest. But I would like to hear your thoughts on that point, Natalie, because Sammy's saying, essentially what he's saying is you must suppress your emotions and you must think logically. Now, Carl Jung, who I'm a big fan of, said that which is suppressed will inevitably be expressed in later days and in uglier ways. And so the concern that I have with that is that you're suppressing your emotions, which subconsciously could affect you in a negative way potentially. Now, I want to hear your point on that, Natalie, and then I want to go back to Sammy to see what he has to say. Natalie, please.
I see what you're doing, Dr. Rock. So my thought is that when you have emotions, you need to acknowledge them, you need to embrace them, and when you do that immediately, you release them quickly. So whatever it is, fear or something, you acknowledge it, you say, okay, I'm afraid. Then you say, okay, I'm afraid. I don't know why. You begin to analyze why. You embrace it. You say, okay, it doesn't make any sense. You let it go. Therefore, you don't suppress it. So you acknowledge it, you don't suppress it, but you analyze it at the same point in time. And then I think what you're saying, Mo, and what Sammy is saying is actually very nicely easy to combine. That's the way I see it, because when we're holding it in, you're absolutely right. It's going to explode sooner or later. If we're only analyzing, then I'm thinking we're more machines than anything. So I think there's always an underlying emotion. The question is, what do we do with the emotion? We can over exaggerate an emotion, kicking, screaming, and all of that just because we're triggered, or we can analyze it, embrace it, and release it. And that's, I think, the best way in general to deal with it, because otherwise it's just gonna be that volcano that waits to explode. But I can't wait to hear what Sammy's saying about that.
Well, okay. I am not saying that you have to not allow your emotions to thrive. No. I mean, it depends on the situation. Is that situation of pleasure, enjoyment, everything is relaxed? Yeah, emotions can do whatever they want, at that point, but within the circumference of the logic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very wide situation, but it does not leave the confines of the logic generally. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a bad situation, danger, threats, dilemma, something that's really irking you in a big way, then the emotions at that point will be stumbling blocks. And if you are happy and confident with yourself, you already arranged your brain in a very logical, methodical, machine-like way, then that's just simply acceptable. There is no emotions involved in suppressing your emotions, for your own good.
Right.
And that's it.
Powerful.
Right.
Thank you for that, Sammy. And let's close out now with Shmiko, your final thoughts for this week, and then we'll close out with Surin before we wrap up this week's program. Shmiko, please, the floor is yours. Final message to our audience.
Wow, I feel I'm torn there. Being raised by an Asian parent, we, as a child, suppressed. I learned in my adulthood that I needed to find balance there. I understood that things were going to happen, challenges come. That's how life is. How you deal with them, mindset, making sure that you're staying focused on your vision and your purpose, that you are finding, if you find yourself in that position, a way to get help or talk it through, or find what you can do if it's maybe not a way that you choose to react. So in leadership, for me, it was really just a balance. It was finding a way to work with people that had different backgrounds, but also to bring the way that I was brought up, which is being kind to people and making sure, but also to bringing it back to myself, saying if there were things that were triggers, to find out what that trigger was, to make sure that my mindset and my abilities were in alignment with it, and then to react that way. So although I am proactive and not reactive, I feel as though in leadership, you need to make sure that there's some balance, that your mindset is in tune to whatever your goal is. And then when the challenges or obstacles come along, that you find a way to work through them, talk through them, and or get the work for yourself so that you can come out much better on the other side of that. So that's my philosophy on that one.
Thank you so much, Shmiko, for your generous contribution to this week's episode with your wisdom. And we're going to close out with Mr. Surin. Close us out. Give us some of that Monday motivation, Surin, and do the outro. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mo, for opportunity. And Dr. Forrest, you guys are very generous for your time and everything. What I want to say, find your calling, what excites you, and then identify the dreams and goals you're going to achieve. And along the way, just be generous and help other people. If John F. Kennedy said, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for country. I want to say, don't ask what people they can do for you. Think what you can do for others. And if you do more enough, this world is so generous. There is so much resources. There is so much plenty of wealth. There is plenty of kindness. And if you think abundance mind, nothing you cannot achieve. I don't say you can achieve everything. I cannot be basketball player. I cannot be astronaut. Maybe I cannot be, sport star. But whatever dreams and goals you have, you can become successful. Area you choose, calling you choose. Maybe you can be great entrepreneur. Maybe you can be great teacher. Maybe you can be a great carpenter. Whatever, or you can be great housekeeper. House, whatever dreams and goals you have, find that one and go with all the energy, all the compassion along the way. Help people, empower them, work hard. I believe anything is possible. You
Wow,
can do
Surin,
great things.
that was amazing. You literally just took a quote from one of the greatest statesmen of all time and you upgraded it. That's powerful. You took John F. Kennedy's quote and you made it even better. That's amazing, Surin. You really made history today. Natalie, what are your final thoughts before we wrap up
Thank
this
you.
week's episode, please?
Final thoughts. I think what has become very clear that it is first and foremost about self-awareness and self-knowledge, and the ability to be self-confident in that, so that you don't go by labels, you don't go by social norms, because everybody mentioned some of those, right? It's like, be aware of what's happening, don't judge the other person because of their hairstyle, and don't judge them because of their jobs. You don't know what their dreams are, you don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but it doesn't matter as long as you know who you are and as long as you know why you're here. And then you can easily give, serve, share, and thereby really make a living and give life. So I think it all comes back down to that. And I think that's what makes that label, and I don't like labels, underdog, so important, because these three amazing people, including you, Mo, you're not here for the limelight. You're here to really make a change. I think that's a huge difference.
Well, John F. Kennedy said, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And many decades later, Surin Sapkota upgraded that quote by saying, don't ask what people can do for you, ask what you can do for people. So thank you, Surin, for making history today with that powerful quote. I'm going to use that quote. And, do I have to give you credit every time I use it, Surin, or can I just use it?
Thank you. And it has a pattern on it. Make sure,
Amazing.
Thank you, Mo.
Well, you know what? You can call Sammy after the show. He can give you some legal advice.
I will.
Alrighty, guys.
I think we have to do that.
This has been a presentation.
Now we have a promotion. 90 days you can use it.
90 days.
There you go.
Okay. I'm going to start using it tonight. Guys, this has been a presentation of the LA Tribune Television Network. We want to thank the virtual auditorium and all of our wonderful guests. Until next week, remember to keep the faith. God bless. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.